From the Detroit Free Press, in the heart of the Motor City, it's Tuesday, September 2nd. Here are today's top stories, presented by Bush's Fresh Food Market. Bush's has over 4,000 Michigan products, including the freshest fruit and vegetables, meat, seafood, and baked goods. Stop by one of Bush's 16 locations for the personal service you expect from your neighborhood grocer.
For the Detroit Free Press, I'm Kerry Jr. II. The state of Michigan reports 718 new cases of the coronavirus and 15 new deaths. 8 deaths were uncovered in a review of death certificates. In total, there are over 103,000 COVID-19 cases and nearly 6,500 deaths statewide. Who is at fault when a customer or employee contract COVID-19? Michigan lawmakers met Tuesday to draft a collection of bills that will answer just that. Free Press reporter Dave Boucher has more on the story. Thank you, Dave, for joining me.
Thanks so much for having me.
What discussions are taking place currently in Michigan's House Judiciary Committee?
So lawmakers met on Tuesday to discuss a series of bills that they say are aimed at protecting employers and employees when it comes to lawsuits and the coronavirus pandemic. Now, the Republican lawmakers who sponsored these bills say that they offer some protections against what they deemed to be frivolous lawsuits. There's also legislation that would provide some protection for employees who come down with the coronavirus and are not able to return to work. The bill would provide some protection against an employer forcing them to have to return to work until they're essentially healthy and ready to go.
There are stories that we know of family members of nursing home staff members who passed away because of coronavirus, and they're suing that nursing home facility because negligence regarding safety protocols. Are there any other stories that we know of that these collection of bills would address?
The legislature uses a analytical service that sort of looks at the impact of some of this legislation. And according to an employment litigation tracker that they cited, as of August 10th of this year, there have been 15 COVID-19 related employment lawsuits in Michigan. One lawmaker said that these bills were some of the most important that the legislators could be discussing in the coming months as businesses try to reopen.
What types of protections are included? One for the businesses and then also for those employees.
Yeah, so for the business, if a business owner is trying to do the right thing and trying to follow all of the executive orders and the health guidelines that are in place, and a customer comes in and buys a sandwich or buys a T-shirt or something like that, and then leaves and comes down with the coronavirus, one of these bills, if it becomes the law, would provide some protection against that litigation for the business owner. Again, as long as that business owner was trying to do everything right. For the employees, there's a different piece of legislation that says if that person comes down with the coronavirus, either through, and they know it because they had a positive test or because they had some of the most significant symptoms, that they are not allowed to come back to work until, they either test negative or until a certain amount of time has passed when they haven't exhibited any of those symptoms. During that time, while they're not at work, the employer can't take any action against them. So they can't punish that person for not coming in. They can't fire them. They can't dock their pay, anything like that. If this legislation became law and that employer did take action against the employee, that employee could sue the employer.
Is there anything included to protect specifically frontline workers?
As the bills are written right now, frontline workers are exempt from that employee sort of carve out that's in one of the bills. So it sounds like the legislation is intended for somebody that, either works in an office or works in a more traditional setting as opposed to either a frontline worker or like a correctional officer who needs to come into contact with lots of people who might be infected on a regular basis. Now, there is a piece of the legislation that speaks to personal protective equipment. And so it provides some protection for, either a business or a different entity who is either making or passing out, masks or other devices that are intended to prevent the spread of the disease. So I think that this is indicative of a broader legislative battle that's going to kind of play out and really has been playing out in legislatures all over the country when it comes to litigation and what people are able to win a lawsuit for and what they're not able to sue over. Already we know that big businesses like Dow Chemical Company and Ford are in favor of this legislation, while organizations representing trade unions and trial lawyers in the state are against it. The discussion that took place this week in the legislature is kind of foreshadowing a larger potential political battle that could play out in the legislature in the coming weeks and months.
Free Press reporter Dave Boucher, I appreciate you talking to me.
Thank you.
Speakers for and against the legislative package are expected to testify when the committee meets again next week. That's the latest. For more information on COVID-19 in Michigan, visit www.freep.com.
I'm Kirkland Crawford with the Free Press Sports Department and an update on Big Ten football. That's right. A couple of weeks ago, League Commissioner Kevin Warner said the decision to not play this fall would not be revisited. And while there are few more powerful people than Warner, the man holding the most powerful office in the world has thrown his hat into the ring. President Donald Trump spoke with Warner on Tuesday about playing football, and according to the president and the league, the talks were productive. However, the decision to play does not rest with the White House, and it doesn't even rest with Kevin Warner. That decision rests with the 14 school presidents within the conference. And from our reporting, playing college football this fall in the Big Ten is a long shot at best. In today's Free Press, Reiner Saban breaks down exactly why, at least right now, that talk is cheap.
For more stories from the Detroit Free Press, be sure to check out freep.com. That's FREEP.com. If you're a fan and want to support our quality local journalism, subscribe. Go to freep.com/special offer.